Behind every royal headline, there's a hidden truth. The world is watching The Crown once again. This is Golden Crown Insider, where royal secrets become headlines. Today's story is not about politics. It is not about titles or palaces or royal protocol. Today's story is about something far more human than any of that. It is about a grandfather who has not held his grandchildren in over 3 years. It is about 2 little children growing up thousands of miles away from a family they barely know. And it is about a king fighting cancer, carrying the weight of an entire monarchy, who privately admits that this is his greatest heartbreak of all. On May 6, 2026, Prince Archie turned 7 years old. 7 years old. And his grandfather, the King of England, was not there. If you are new to Golden Crown Insider, welcome. Hit that subscribe button right now because every single day we bring you the stories behind the crown that the mainstream media skips over. Subscribe, hit the bell, and stay with us, because this story is going to hit you somewhere deep. Let's start at the beginning. When Archie Harrison Mountbatten Windsor was born on May 6, 2019, the whole world celebrated. Harry and Meghan stood on the steps of Windsor Castle, glowing, proud, showing their son to a world that was completely captivated. It was a moment of pure joy for the royal family. And for Charles, who had waited years to become a grandfather, it was something incredibly special. But even from those early days, something was wrong beneath the surface. The tensions between Harry, Meghan, and the palace were already building. The whispers were already there. And within just a year, everything would collapse. In January 2020, Harry and Meghan announced they were stepping back from royal duties. The palace was blindsided. The public was shocked. And just like that, the Sussex family packed up their lives and moved first to Canada and then permanently to California. And with that move, the distance between a grandfather and his grandchildren began. The last time King Charles saw Archie and Lilibet in person was June 2022, during the late Queen Elizabeth's Platinum Jubilee celebrations. And for little Lilibet, who was born in America, that visit was reportedly the only time Charles had ever met her in person. News 24, read that again. The only time, one meeting, one single moment between a grandfather and his granddaughter, and then nothing. Since then, Harry and Meghan have made multiple trips back to the UK, but Archie and Lilibet have not been brought along. The children have remained in California, growing up in a world far removed from the palaces, the protocols, and the family that carries their bloodline. ABC News. Now imagine being King Charles for a moment. You are 77 years old. You are fighting cancer. You are running a monarchy through one of the most turbulent periods in modern royal history. And somewhere in California, growing up without you, without your stories, without your presence, are 2 little children who call you their grandfather. Children you have barely met. Children you are watching grow up through occasional social media posts and video calls. Royal author Ingrid Seward, who has studied the king closely for decades, has spoken about how deeply this weighs on Charles. She said it is a great sadness to him that he doesn't see more of Archie and Lilibet. And she added something that cuts even deeper, that his cancer has made it all the more poignant because he knows he won't be around forever. Marie Claire. He knows he won't be around forever. That single line tells you everything about what is happening inside this man's heart right now. Sources close to the palace have confirmed that Charles does not want a FaceTime relationship with his son's children. He wants to know them. He wants to be involved in their lives while they are still young enough to learn from him. He wants to make memories, real ones, not digital ones. Marie Claire. But here is the painful reality. Wanting something and getting it are 2 very different things when you are in the middle of one of the most public, most complicated family rifts in the history of the British monarchy. Royal commentator Duncan Larcombe told the Mirror just days ago, after Archie's 7th birthday, that King Charles is full of regret over the whole situation. He said the king definitely would not have wanted things to go this way. And that word, regret, coming from a man who has spent his entire life in service, who has been trained from birth to show no weakness, no vulnerability, that word carries enormous weight. International Business Times, because this is not just a family disagreement. This is a grandfather watching the years pass, watching a 7-year-old boy he barely knows blow out birthday candles from 6,000 miles away. Watching a little girl named after the grandmother he adored, Lilibet, the same nickname Queen Elizabeth carried her entire life, growing up not knowing who he really is. And then came something that made it even more painful. In April 2026, King Charles traveled to the United States for a historic state visit. He addressed Congress. He received standing ovations. He shook hands with American leaders. He was everywhere, on every screen, every newspaper, every channel. And the entire time, Harry, Meghan, Archie, and Lilibet were just a few hours away in California. Social media exploded. People online were furious on behalf of the children. One user wrote, "He will visit a felon but not his son and grandchildren." Another simply asked, "What happened to seeing Archie and Lilibet?" The optics, according to royal commentators, were deeply uncomfortable for the palace. International Business Times Charles was in America. His grandchildren were in America, and they did not meet. Now there are two sides to this story, and Golden Crown Insider always gives you both. On one side, you have those who say this is entirely Harry and Meghan's doing, that they chose to leave, that they chose California, that they chose to keep the children away, that every attempt Charles has made to reach out has been complicated by the ongoing legal battles, the Netflix documentaries, the books, and the very public accusations that Harry and Meghan have made against the royal family over the years. And on the other side, you have those who say Charles could do more, that a dying man, and let us not pretend those words are not hovering in the background of every conversation about his health, should be willing to set aside pride, set aside protocol, and simply show up for his grandchildren. That no rift, no matter how deep, should be bigger than the bond between a grandfather and the children who carry his legacy. The truth, as it almost always is, probably sits somewhere in the middle. Sources have described Charles as genuinely fond of all his grandchildren, deeply involved with George, Charlotte, and Louis, who are nearby and part of his daily world. But with Archie and Lilibet, the situation is heartbreakingly different. He has only met Archie a handful of times. He has only met Lilibet once, News 24 once, and now Archie is 7. And Lilibet is 4. And every birthday that passes is a birthday that cannot be given back. On Archie's 7th birthday, Meghan shared photos on Instagram, a newborn Archie sleeping on Harry's chest, and a second photo of Archie and Lilibet together, wading in water, mountains behind them. She simply wrote, 7 years later, "Happy birthday to our sweet boy." Yahoo, it was beautiful. It was tender. And it was a reminder, quiet but powerful, of a family that exists in a world completely separate from the crown. Meanwhile, inside Buckingham Palace, a grandfather marked that same birthday in silence. No public statement, no official post. Just the quiet, private grief of a man who knows that time, and for all of us, but especially for him, is not unlimited. This is the hidden truth behind the crown that nobody wants to say out loud. That the greatest loss in the Sussex saga is not the titles, not the money, not the working royal status. The greatest loss is the relationship between a grandfather and his grandchildren, a relationship that, with every passing year, becomes harder and harder to rebuild. And for King Charles, a man who has spoken publicly about his own mortality, who has watched his cancer treatment slowly reduce but not disappear, who has said in his own words that he knows he won't be around forever. The clock is ticking in a way that it simply isn't for the rest of us. Will he ever hold Archie and Lilibet again? Will they grow up knowing their grandfather not just as a face on a screen, but as a real person, with a real laugh, real stories, real warmth? Will the rift that split this family apart ever truly heal before it is too late? Nobody knows. Not the palace, not the press, and perhaps not even Harry and Charles themselves. What we do know is this. Behind the crown, behind the ceremony, behind every perfectly staged royal photograph, there is a grandfather sitting in a palace, looking at pictures of 2 children he barely knows, and wishing more than anything that things had been different. That is the hidden truth today, and it is one of the saddest stories the crown has ever carried. If this video moved you, please give it a thumbs up. Share it with someone who follows the royals. And if you are not subscribed yet, this is your sign. Hit that subscribe button right now. Join the Golden Crown Insider family. Every single day, we go deeper than the headlines. We find the human stories behind the royal ones. We uncover what the palace doesn't say out loud. This is Golden Crown Insider, and we will see you in the next one.